welcome to episode 3 of Soundbites on Wiz Sports Radio. Soundbites is a bi-weekly podcast providing you with practical information on holistic nutrition. On each episode, we feature a new topic to empower you to make healthier choices so you can improve your overall health, performance, and prevent disease. Welcome to episode 3 with your host, Maricarmen. I am so excited to share about this topic with you. I will be talking about my personal experience after following a vegetarian lifestyle for 7 years. Now, the reason I decided to share about this topic, it's because I've seen more and more people transitioning into a plant-based lifestyle. And on this episode, the main focus will be on providing you with the right tools so that if you decide to follow that type of lifestyle, you can do it in a healthy way, not like I did. So always having that information is going to be super helpful just so that you can avoid health problems in the future. Now, I want to clarify something. This is not about bashing any type of lifestyle, but rather educating you so that you can make better decisions when it comes to your health. And throughout this podcast, I will be answering the following questions. First, why I'm no longer vegetarian. Second, what are some of the mistakes I personally did when I was following a vegetarian diet and how you can solve them. Also, I'm going to answer the question, if you can get all the performance benefits and recovery while following a vegetarian diet, just because I see a lot of athletes actually transitioning into a plant-based diet. And it's very important specifically for athletes to know this information because as athletes, we are exerting even more stress on our bodies rather than compared to someone who does not work out as often. So this is going to be super helpful for those who are looking to improve their performance. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, just some supplements that I personally recommend you take if you are following a vegetarian or a vegan diet. Now, I might piss a lot of people off, but I do want to make clear that just because you're following a vegetarian lifestyle, it doesn't mean you will be healthier. Now, this applies to every other diet. It's like that person that goes to Whole Foods and thinks that everything is healthy just because you're in Whole Foods. So just generalizing that a type of lifestyle will be healthy for everyone is wrong, because you have to realize that we are all different, and really one lifestyle, it's not going to apply to a whole population. So you want to look at this on an individual basis. In my personal opinion, the only type of lifestyle that will be healthier for everyone is if you follow a diet that's going to be low in highly processed foods, refined sugars, trans fats, and fast food. In my personal opinion, that's the only type of diet that will actually help you achieve lasting health and feel better on a daily basis. So enough about that. Now I want to tell you a little bit about my story and how did everything started. So it was around age 19, 20, after reading endless articles, watching videos, that I began to slide from veganism to vegetarianism and many others, but mainly vegetarian. I wasn't vegan for a long time, but I was vegetarian for 7 years. And just because I thought it was a healthier way of life, I was 100% convinced that that was the way to go. Now, I have to say that my energy was through the roof. My recovery was amazing. Like I would go do a triathlon and then I would recover like right away. And I felt great most of the time. Now, most of my days were also accompanied by an inability to maintain body heat. I was always cold. The other thing is that I had nosebleeds all of the time. I struggled with constipation, gas. I had allergies all the time, And honestly, I never realized that this was linked to me having any type of deficiencies because I had energy. So I was like, well, I have energy. I'm on the way that I feel comfortable. I feel healthy. It's just like these things that it didn't raise a red flag for me. So the symptoms were obvious. And the reason I'm mentioning those symptoms is because I now realize that that's not normal. You should be able to maintain body heat if it's like not even cold out there. Gas, constipation, allergies is something that you can actually cure with a healthy lifestyle. And for me, becoming vegetarian was truly about health. So another thing that I realized later on, it's that for me, it was a better way to control what I was eating and restrict certain foods. Now, I just want to clarify something else. I am by no means saying that being vegetarian caused this problem. The message I want to deliver is that I truly believe that I could have done things different to avoid the deficiencies that were affecting my health. I believe that you can have a vegetarian diet and don't prevent those deficiencies if you follow the steps that I'm about to talk about and realize that you can be deficient with any other type of lifestyle. So this is just about making sure you are getting everything you need on a daily basis, not saying, oh, because you are vegetarian, you are going to be deficient. Like, that's not what I'm saying. It's just with every type of lifestyle, when you have symptoms, it's very important that you listen and look at those symptoms so that you can see what you need to complement on your lifestyle. Now, to answer the question why I'm not longer vegetarian, for me, the turning point was about a year ago when I was diagnosed with asthma. I was giving an inhaler, and since they told me that, I was like, I refused to use it. I was like, there's no way that if I'm working out all the time and I'm trying to be healthy and I'm following, like fueling my body, how can I have asthma? Like, I just couldn't believe it, and I refused to use an inhaler. So I started to look for natural ways to heal. This is when I realized it was time to make a change. And the first thought that came to my mind is, I know that the best way to achieve lasting health is to have balance. But on the other side, I had been vegetarian for so many years that it was really hard for me to start eating meat again. I was like, everyone knows that I'm vegetarian. Like, I've said being vegetarian is like the healthiest thing there is. So it wasn't easy for me, but at the same time, I would go for a run and I couldn't breathe. Again, I'm not saying that it was because I was vegetarian. It was just because I wasn't I wasn't listening to the symptoms that I was having, and I let it go for a long time. Now, it took me a while to make that shift, but at that point, I was willing to try anything. Now, some of the mistakes that I did, and that I see a lot of people doing is, first of all, not supplementing with vitamins, fatty acids, amino acids, minerals, and macronutrients that are notoriously missing from a plant-based diet. Now, this is not a theory. It's a fact. When you are following a vegetarian diet, there are some vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, amino acids, like macronutrients and micronutrients that you're not going to be getting on your diet. So when you make the decision to transition to another lifestyle, plant-based lifestyle, it's very important that you take that into consideration and know that if you're going to be following that lifestyle, you need to supplement. Now, another thing that a lot of people might not know, it's like most people overdo protein because we think, oh, I'm not eating meat, so I'm going to drink this protein shake and I'm going to eat all this soy and I'm going to eat all this legumes and all of that. Most people are overdoing protein. And when you overdo protein, it becomes toxic in your body. So just because you're not eating meat doesn't mean that you have to eat all that protein. And that's something that, I wasn't aware of. I always wanted to make sure I was eating protein. And for a lot of people, it can be the other way. Maybe you transition to a vegetarian diet and you are not eating enough protein. So when you're following that lifestyle, you really have to be extra careful when it comes to your protein intake, just because you're excluding a big part of, the food groups. Now, the other thing for me is that my fiber intake was through the roof. I remember there was a period of my life where I used to upload all the food I ate to an app. And I remember my fiber intake would always be like super high. And I was like, oh, great, fiber is great. Now, fiber is great for you, but when you have it in excess, it can cause constipation, gas, and it's actually not absorbed by your body. So it can cause bloating as well. And some vegetables have huge amount of fiber. And also like legumes, like lentils, beans, garbanzo. So sometimes I would eat like 2 full plates of beans, which, they're healthy, but that's a lot of fiber. So just make sure you are watching that fiber intake so that you don't overdo it, and then it will lead to constipation, bloating, and all that stuff that's really not fun to deal with. Now, the last thing for me was eating high amount of processed foods that I believed were healthy, like fake meats. Now, with tofu and processed soy, soy actually contains digestive irritants and digestive enzyme inhibitors like lectins, phytates, that are not allowing you to absorb the food that you're eating. I won't go into detail about that, but I will add a link to the show notes so that you can learn more about all of these inhibitors that are actually not allowing you to even absorb the food that you are eating. Now, those are some of the mistakes that I personally did. Now, the next question is, which I get asked a lot, can I perform well on a vegetarian diet? Yes, you can perform well on a vegetarian diet. But here's the thing, guys. Always remember that performance and health are not the same thing. I have to say that personally, I performed well during the first couple of years when I became vegetarian, and never struggled with energy, with recovery, until obviously I was diagnosed with asthma. And that's when I started to be like, oh, like what's going on? Like what deficiencies am I having? Now, again, going back, you can perform well, but you do have to follow the guidelines that I just talked about and make sure you are supplementing with the things that you're not getting from following a plant-based diet. Now, for someone who's healthy and can digest animal products, and it's just something that, that in your mind it's healthier, I personally don't recommend it. Just because I am a big believer that taking the nutrients from a natural source will be always better than supplementing. Now, this is just my personal opinion, and I know that a lot of people are vegetarian for other reasons. For this specific podcast, I'm focusing on health. So if you can eat animal products, you do well with dairy, with meat, with chicken, like with all of that, I personally believe that you should include them in your diet. Now, I just want to share with you a little bit of what are some of the things that you can eat. Make sure you're eating real foods. It's so easy to be following a certain lifestyle and just like you can be vegan and vegetarian and eat Oreos, French fries, processed food all day. So just make sure that you are eating real food. Some of the good foods that you can include are miso, tempeh, good sources of tofu, a variety of vegetables. So make sure, like, let's say if you're eating broccoli, you have a variety of vegetables and you're not just eating the same things over and over. Grains and legumes, I highly recommend that you sprout or ferment depending on the grain or legumes. I talk about this on the last podcast, so you can go back and listen to it if you have questions about that. Also, make sure you are eating high quality oils like avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil. And the reason I mentioned this is because I noticed that a lot of people forget about the fats and even would go and buy low-fat products that just have more carbohydrates, which pretty much means sugar, and then you're not getting all those healthy fats that are good for you. And this applies for everyone. You can also include seeds like chia, hemp, flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, so many seeds that are great addition to salads or just like any dish that you're trying. And if you are not, if you just want to avoid meat, but you're okay with bone broth, that's something that I really recommend because you're not eating the meat itself. You're eating just like the broth that has all the nutrients that the meat has without you having to eat the meat. So, that's just something that I think it's helpful to add if you're following a vegetarian diet. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is supplementation. I won't go into specifics about each vitamin. What I will do so I can help you understand this better, I will add to the show notes each vitamin with a description of what that vitamin is for, and then good sources where you can get them from food, specific foods that you should include more if you're following a plant-based diet, and also good supplements that you can take, because remember, not all supplements are made equally. So the first one is vitamin K2. Which is going to help you maintain a healthy heart and skeletal system. And a lot of K2 is found in dairy, which, if you're vegan, you might not be getting a lot of that. If you're vegetarian, you might, but just something to keep in mind. Another one, it's vitamin D3 that is only found in meat products. And then the other one, very important, is vitamin A. And the thing with vitamin A, I've also talked about this before, is that vitamin A is found in plants as beta carotene. So it's really not vitamin A. It has to be converted. So the only sources where you find vitamin A is going to be from animal products. You can still get beta carotene from plants, but it has to be converted. So that's what makes it a little bit harder for you to get. So that's why I really recommend that you supplement that. Iodine is another big one. Vitamin B12 and taurine. Taurine is actually an amino acid that's only found in animal foods, and that's going to be crucial for brain development, healthy blood pressure, blood glucose stability, just like, it's going to help you protect your vision, and it has amazing benefits. So as you can see, there are so many vitamins that you can become deficient on when you are not supplementing. So those are some of the ones that I highly recommend you include in your everyday lifestyle so that you can avoid any deficiencies in the future. That's all I have for you guys today. I really hope you found this helpful. And if you would like more information, please visit my website, which will be provided on the show notes. You can also email info@wispsports.com with any questions you have about nutrition. There will also be links in the show notes accompanying this episode at wispsports.com. Just go to listen and click on sound bites. And while you're there, you can also find more conversations from the world of women's sports. And please subscribe to Wiz Sports Radio on your favorite podcast player. The last thing I want to talk about is something very exciting. Let you know that Wiz Sports is running a Patreon campaign, which is sort of like a Kickstarter campaign for podcasters. Wiz is doing a lot to draw more attention to women's sports. Not just triathlon, but ski racing, and sports like rugby, hockey, sailing, cycling, and way, way more. There will be a link to the campaign in the show notes, and I hope you'll go check out the campaign and become a supporter so we can continue promoting women in sport. You can also post your comments and share on social media. Just look for Maricarmen for Farias and at Wiz Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening and supporting women in sports.